Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
That's right. My name is Mike Piroworski, coming to you live from the East Coast. It's the coast with the most, from the co-host with the most. Here on The Rundown, two-way views, conservative news, and Craig, it's frickin' Monday.
It is Monday.
I stop what you're doing, cause I'm about to ruin the image of me that you're used to. I look money, a king bee making honey, see? Deep state, I hope you're ready for me. Now gather round, I'm the new sheriff in town. All my people rise up and stand your ground. Now drink up all the Diet Coke you got on your shelf. So just let me introduce myself. My name is Trump D. I like my mashed potatoes lumpy. Fake news, oh how I like to punk thee. That little sniper on the slow tin. He took a shot but he missed me. I don't fall, y'all, I'm like the ever-ready bunny. Still going strong and spunky. So put on your big boy pants. Come on, let's do the dance.
The Trumpy dance is your chance to do the Trump.
Come on, do the Trumpty Trump. Come on and do the Trumpty Trump. Check me out, y'all. We do the Trumpty Trump. Just watch me do the Trumpty Trump. Do you know what I'm doing? We do the Trumpty Trump. Come on, everybody do the Trumpty Trump. It's time to do the Trumpty Trump. Yeah, my favorite dish is
That's right, folks. We are doing the Trumpty Trump day because every day he is just winning. So we're having a good time. It is Monday, fun day, gun day. So why not have fun with the Trumpster?
That's right, baby. You, me, and the Trump, just like that. Doing the Trump.
Just like that. How was your weekend, sir?
I'm trying to remember it. Let's see. I don't know. It couldn't have been that great. I don't remember anything.
Couldn't have been that good.
Not like
Don't.
I don't remember anything because we were partying. I just was like there was some TV and some dishes involved, and that was about it.
Oh, just wasn't that memorable.
Yeah, because like nothing happened. And it was just like, oh, look, I mean, of course, there was another outstanding episode of Arms Room Radio, but other than that, not much.
Well, that's pretty standard fare, though. Arms Room Radio.
Yeah, we're top shelf stuff.
There you go.
Top shelf
there you
stuff.
go. Well, I pretty much did
shelf
yard work and then went out to a comedy show on Saturday night. That's a couple of friends of mine who are comedians just to put on a show, and it was hilarious.
Good stuff. Good.
Yes.
Were they good funny or artificial funny?
They were good funny. And some of it was stuff that, if you weren't, some of it was kind of inside jokes. So it was like one of those things where if you know them, you know why it's funny. That was the bad part. I was like, okay, you got to have fewer inside jokes. Good for a comedian doing a public show. Inside jokes don't work. I laughed because I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, it's something we do with the here and in the radio business as well. It's if you're going to do an inside joke, you better make sure everybody understands what the inside joke is. Otherwise, they're like, "What are these guys talking about?"
Exactly. But it was anyway. Good time was had by all. Plenty of spirits were consumed, which also doesn't hurt with making shows fun, making comedy shows funny.
Spirits? You mean like ghost guns?
No ghost guns.
Oh, you said spirits. I thought you were ghost guns.
I'm referring probably more to like Maker's Mark.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, but it was good. We had a really good time. Anyway, other than that, man, like I said, it's Monday. The weather here is beautiful. We hit that time of the year where it's going to be like mid 70s, 80s probably for the next couple of months before we hit June, and then June we'll start hitting 90s and 100s again. Which I don't mind 90s. I don't even really mind 100 as long as I'm not out working in it. But this is one of those, you can chill outside all day kind of weathers.
No.
Having a good
No
time.
mudslides, no fires, no earthquakes, nothing like that going on right now.
No mudslides, no fires, no earthquakes, just California government.
So mudslides, fires, and earthquakes.
Look, those are on good day. Those are the good disasters.
Yeah.
California government is a hot mess.
Like a poop show. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, like a poop show. There you go. It's very much like a poop show. All right, speaking of shows, let's go ahead and get into it and start it off as we normally do with a quick shout out to our sponsors.
Yep, Hitman Industries, hitmanindustries.net. If you want to get yourself some AR barrels, this is the place to do it. You can get rifle caliber, pistol caliber, any length you desire for your next AR rifle build or rebarrel your current AR platform. That's hitmanindustries.net. California Republican Assembly fighting a good fight behind enemy lines. Now you can take part in California's future today. You want the best in tactical concealed holsters on the market. Get on over to Hog Holsters. That's HAWG holsters.com, hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown. That's all one word, no spaces, all caps. Get yourself a nice little discount. And if you want the best in field gear, tactical gear, web gear, law enforcement, security, fire, whatever it may be, get your group together, get your agency together, and make yourself an order over at uscombatgear.com, where you get everything except the gun.
That's right, folks. Please take a moment and visit our sponsors. All you have to do is follow the links in the description to this program. It'll take you right to their website. Go there, check them out, spend some money with them. And when you do, make sure you let them know it was the guys over at The Rundown that sent you. Also want to remind you, we are live. We are live on Facebook, not on Facebook, actually, on YouTube, on Rumble. We are live. All right. Now, all of the others, it's all going to be a replay. We're dealing with some issues in particular with Facebook where it keeps cutting us off, but I think I fixed the problem. I do not know, and I will not know until we've run it a few times. But for right now, I figure you guys would rather have a rerun of the program and get it without it getting cut off. But if you want to watch us live, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, on YouTube, on Rumble, check us out right now. You can comment. I'm following your comments. If you got something to say, we will share it with the audience if we find it to be interesting. If we don't, we won't share it. We don't have to agree, as I always say, but just know that if we disagree, we do reserve the right to mock you.
To mock you. Hey, you know, that reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from the movie Top Gun. That son of a bitch cut me off.
Okay.
When Facebook cuts us off all the time. That son of a bitch cut me off.
Yes, exactly. Stuff be happening like that, folks. I'm telling you, it ain't fun. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into today's news stories. And, you know, it is amazing to me once again how often we hear things that are determined by studies that those of us who live in reality, in particular those of us on the right, because the left definitely doesn't live in reality, how we tend to find out that there's actually a study now that proves things that we already know. For example, that the left is embracing the quote-unquote assassination culture. Now, this is from an opinion piece over at Red State, but I still thought it was appropriate, even though it's an opinion piece, I still thought it was appropriate nonetheless to discuss. And it says here, shocking study, left embracing assassination culture. Some see Trump's death as somewhat justified. Let's read here. It says, a disheartening number of people in general, but probably more on the left side of the political spectrum, are embracing an assassination culture that suggests there is a justification for violence against political opponents, a new study finds. Not that a study was necessary based on the number of Tesla dealership fire bombings and as actual attempts on President Trump's life have borne out. That said, Rutgers University's Network Contagion Research Institute, or NCRI, has just released a report indicating that violence targeting Donald Trump and Elon Musk is becoming increasingly normalized. NCRI founder John Finkelstein said, who is a psychologist and neuroscientist, authored the study. Quote, what was formerly taboo has become acceptable, Finkelstein told Fox News Digital. We are seeing a clear shift, glorification, increased attempts, and changing norms, all converging into what we define as assassination culture. The study noted the acceptance of political violence has surged since the nearly fatal attempt on Trump's life in Butler, Pennsylvania this past summer. But it also points out the glorification of Luigi Mangione, who stalked and murdered United Healthcare executive Brian Thompson in December, has shaped how the public is increasingly justifying violence. And once again, what's interesting about these examples, Mike, is you notice these are not folks on the left These are exclusively folks on the right. I mean, these are not folks on the right. These are exclusively folks on the left.
Craig, but a great little article, from the author there. But they've always been this way when it comes to firearms. Us on the right, you and I, everybody else out there, we have a great respect for firearms, and we don't joke around and we don't kid around about firearms. But when you talk to people on the left and you say, well, what would you do? And they would be like, well, I would just shoot them. I would just shoot them, or these are the ones that point their fingers at you and go bang, bang, bang. And they have no respect for firearms, but when they say stupid things like, well, I would just shoot him. I would just shoot him. I would take the gun and shoot him. Well, no, did you not pay attention to the entire last 20 years where we were educating you on proper use and safety of firearms? And then you go out and say stupid crap like that. It's because you're ignorant. You're just absolutely ignorant, and you don't care. I've seen them do this for years and years. It's nice to see the article pointed out, but this is not something new, I don't think.
Well, I think it's interesting. You're right. It's not pointing out anything that is new. But what it has done is it has increased. And what's funny is you're seeing people, in particular, people who are part of the mainstream left. We're not talking about the fringe left that are doing this. We're not just talking about the people who are on social media. We're talking about public figures. I mean, you got guys like comedians like Bill Burr, who is out there talking about Free Luigi and is praising this guy who basically murdered somebody because he didn't like the way he runs his company. And it's funny how people on the left are always, and I actually had written a piece about how it's their rhetoric that is making people feel emboldened, because let's be honest, there are people on both sides of the aisle that are where not everything is right in the ed, if you know what I mean.
Right,
and they listen to stuff like this. They listen to people who are supposed to be, influential people who are supposed to know better than to say stupid stuff, promote stuff like this. And then you wonder why. I mean, did you see any of do you see the video that was being circulated about the people who were out there doing doing some of the protests this weekend?
Yes. Yeah, I did.
They were unhinged. They were nuts.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other way to put it other than these people have serious mental health issues. Serious.
Well,
and
yes. I also believe one of the reasons behind a lot of these protests are, first off, this is anybody that's got even the smallest. The anti-Trumpers are out there. It doesn't matter what Trump is doing. And that's a lot of what I think you're talking about, especially with Bill Burr. If it's something that this administration's for and Trump is for, they're going to show up against it, no matter what. I think like kids with cancer, right? Okay. I mean, do we have to go any further than just to say that, to give you the example of what they're willing to be against? But Craig, the number one reason they're out there and they're fighting this, and they're fighting Elon, and they're fighting Doge, and they're fighting Trump, is they're exposing at a rate never seen before. It's never been seen in history. You're never going to see anything else again like this. The fraud, waste, and abuse at our federal government level. And they're mad because guess where their handout checks come from, Craig? Guess where the checks come from? They come from
well, that's where a lot of the politicians are, but a lot of these people who are just out there on the streets, all they know is they're just out there because they hate Donald Trump, and now by association they hate Elon Musk. And that's all they know. And and I think a lot of it is the fact that, I mean, you can't spend almost a decade calling a man Hitler, saying that he's going to end democracy and that he's going to lock up reporters and gay people and he's going to put blacks back in chains. You can't do that for almost a decade and then expect people not to have an emotional reaction to the guy once he's now leader of the free world again.
Yeah. Listen, I don't have a problem with these people going out there and doing these nonviolent protests, right? Because we know where the numbers are, Greg. We know who's supported, and we know when we got crybabies out there that don't want to see their checks go away. That's all there is to it.
Well, the other thing, though, is that there's this redefinition on the left when it comes to quote unquote violence. So for them, violence against property is not really violence. So if you destroy someone's property, their car, their business, they don't see that as quote unquote violence because it's not against a person. And then even in some cases, if it's against a person, well, who's the person? Is the person a Nazi? Well, then maybe it's okay to go ahead and, or have we deemed them to be a Nazi?
mean, how many examples do we have to have? We've got mayors and governors out there saying that Elon's horrible and they should do these protests, and yet they all have their their retirement accounts firmly invested in his company. So they're killing their own pension funds. It's just they don't care. It doesn't make a bit of sense, Craig. If the right is for it, if Donald Trump's for it, if Elon's for it, they're going to be against it. You could say, listen, we are now for handing out bags of $100 bills. They would be angry because there weren't 50s in it. I mean, they really would.
Well, yeah, they'd be mad because it wasn't $500 bills.
Exactly. Yeah.
But by the way,
hold on, let me see. I want to start off the program with. I want to compliment you while you're there.
Yes.
For getting about 90% of the word assassination spelled correctly. I'd like to give you a good job for that. Yeah, for getting most of it spelled correctly.
Okay. Yes. Screw it. I was in a rush. Spell check didn't catch it.
I mean, I give you like B, it's like B work. I'll give you that's B work. That's good stuff. That's above average. Most of it's correct. Yeah,
This is a good thing this is a family show because I will anyway. Moving right along. Speaking of violence. All right. Speaking of violence and the impact that it's having. Well, you know that if you attack a car, eventually you're going to harm someone who's actually in the vehicle. And that actually now has in fact happened, at least we now know of in one case. This being reported by Breitbart, folks over at Breitbart. Pregnant woman seriously injured by rock thrown through Tesla windshield. Yeah, who would have thought that wouldn't cause a problem? A pregnant woman sitting in the passenger seat of a Tesla EV was injured by a 2-pound rock that smashed through the car windshield in Vancouver, Canada. Authorities are now investigating if the rock was intentionally thrown at the vehicle made by Elon Musk's company. Police said the Tesla was headed north on let's see, Naomi Street, whatever, on the evening of March 30th and was struck by a rock as the electric vehicle passed East 27th Avenue, according to report by Global News. The rock reportedly smashed through the car's windshield and seriously injured a pregnant woman in the passenger seat before landing on the floor of the Tesla. The victim is expected to make a full recovery. Now, Mike, what do you think the chances are that this was just some random attack, just someone just dropping a rock? And what do you think the chances are that they were deliberately going after a Tesla?
Listen, Craig, I do a lot of driving. I get a lot of cracked windshields, probably one every year or two with the amount of driving I do. And we frequently get, rocks that come up and hit windshields. Although I can never remember a 2-pound rock taking flight by itself and hurling itself through the air.
I mean, one hell of a truck to kick that rock up.
Exactly. You get sometimes you get the little pebble, or a little piece of tar that comes up off the road. That's it. This is clearly intentional. Listen, if it wasn't intentional at Tesla, which it more than likely was, right? It was intentional at this vehicle. So I hope whoever did this gets to go to jail for a long time. Although it's Canada, they probably won't.
Well, Mike, but you see these people walking up to and banging on the cars, the people kicking the cars. You see people ramming into the cars, and you got to think, what is wrong with you people? There are people in these cars. Don't you think? Are you really that okay with violence? Not against a political enemy, against somebody who's driving a car that was made by someone who is associated to someone you hate.
Yeah, who a year ago you supported, by the way. He was 2023 and 2024 was the number one car sales in North America. Was Teslas. So you supported them then, just not now. Craig, it's going to be wonderful because I'm sure within the next 6 months or a year, Teslas have a lot of features, right? And they get these downloads, right? You get the download from above, and the new features are activated as they come online with programming. When Elon decides he's going to activate the defense modes on these things, activate Tesla defense. You remember in Star Wars when somebody would try to go attack R2D2 and he would pull out the taser and just
Yeah.
it's going to happen. That's going to happen.
Mhm.
These Teslas are going to start tasing people when they get too close to the vehicles, and they'll be laying there on the ground when the police come because they're just going to keep it going. They're just going to keep it going.
I actually think more of like RoboCop. Remember the big machines that would go, surrender. You have 3 seconds to comply.
Yeah. I hear that voice, but that's while the taser leads are on you.
Oh yeah,
On the
there you
ground,
go.
frozen. You know.
Well, you know what will be even better with that, with the taser, is that because of the cameras, it'll all get caught. It'll all get caught on video. We'll get to watch it.
Did you see somebody put the video out back on April Fool's Day last week? It was the Tesla anti-parking ticket defense system. Did you see this?
I did not see that. No.
When they would go up and write the ticket and they'd go to put it on, the vehicle would move a foot. And it would continue to move a foot every time he tried to put it on it. And if that didn't work, the wipers would come on. So he couldn't put the under the wipers. And I started laughing and I'm like, he probably could do this.
It probably can do that. How hard would it be to program AI to do that?
No, not at all. I mean, they got self-driving cars. It can move a foot when you're trying to put a ticket on it.
There you go. I'm down for that idea. Elon, make it happen. I might buy a Tesla.
Yeah.
Go ahead, make that happen. I might be able to do that then.
Yep.
All right. Now we know that eventually they'll wind up, when all of this is done and this whole hysteria over Elon is over, we know that they'll deny that it ever happened, that these incidences never happened. Just like, they talk about the mostly peaceful protests of the George Floyd summer. Well, we also know that now what's happening, all of these protests that are happening on universities where they're screaming death to all Jews and death to Israel and death to America, there seems to be an inconvenient... It seems to be slipping people's minds exactly what was going on. And specifically, I'm talking about the former president of Columbia University, as she provided information or testimony regarding the feds about anti-Semitism and racism that was occurring at some of these events. Here being reported by the Washington Free Beacon, it says, no specific memory. Columbia University's Armstrong tells feds she can't recall specifics of any anti-Semitic incident on campus. Former Columbia University President Katrina Armstrong told the federal government on Tuesday that she could not recall students calling for the destruction of the state of Israel, nor could she recall hearing of allegations that students spit on their Jewish counterparts, or that a member of the faculty had in class described Jewish donors at Columbia as, quote, wealthy white capitalists who laundered blood money. In fact, Armstrong, who sat for a deposition at the Department of Health and Human Services in connection with the Trump administration's civil rights investigation into the university, didn't seem to remember much of anything about her 7-month tenure as interim president at the embattled Ivy League school. The Washington Free Beacon obtained a transcript of the deposition. And what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to go ahead and copy this article. So if y'all want to check it out, you can go ahead and read the transcript. Don't do it now, though, but you can go ahead and you can read the transcript and hear some of the very, very stupid things that this lady said. And, I'm just trying to figure out, is she in like self-defense mode because she doesn't want to be brought up on charges, or is she just that stupid, or she just think we're all that stupid?
She's a lying piece of liberal trash is what she is, Craig. That's why she was only the interim president, and that's why she was only there for 7 months. If she says she didn't see it, she thinks nobody can come after her. Well, guess what? That's culpable negligence. You allowed it to occur. You had your head in the dirt, so you didn't see it. Everybody else in the world saw it. It was on the news every day. And if you didn't see it, you're still negligent. So guess what? You're done. You're not going to get another job again, and we're going to make you a pariah, when it comes to this situation.
Exactly. By the way, I want to say hello to Russell Bryant, who's watching us over on YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning in. please encourage your friends to do the same. All right, moving right along. Like I said, going back to this real quick though. This is how they do it. They don't just they rewrite history. They're like, well, those protests were mostly peaceful. In this particular case, where there was nothing anti-Semitic said, and if you notice, you didn't see a whole lot of reporting on it in a lot of the mainstream media. You did in some. Interesting, some of them were where you probably had Jewish reporters who were reporting on it, but that was really about it. They really decided to wash over or whitewash the whole. Yeah, no, they were peaceful. They didn't call for. I mean, what do you think? From the river to the sea, what do you think that chant means?
Craig, I said this to you last week. As a criminal investigator, we'd get the guilty in the room and we'd have the conversation with them, and they would do three things, and we knew they were guilty is when they would lie, deny, and make counter accusations. And here she is doing exactly that. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Yep. It is exactly like that, and it is kind of sad.
Yeah.
Which brings us to our last story. Now, you remember the whole hugabaloo that took place over the signal exchange or the texting app exchange between some of the foreign policy leaders regarding the attacks on the Houthis, and how everyone wondered how a reporter, an editor actually from The Atlantic, wound up on there, Mr. Jeffrey Goldberg. Well, they have finally confirmed after an investigation how dude's name got in there, and that's what they're reporting on now in a number of places. But I'm going to go ahead and pull it from The Guardian. We'll go ahead and use their reporting here. It says their internal investigation cleared to the National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, but the mistake was months in the making. Donald Trump's National Security Advisor Mike Waltz included a journalist in the Signal group chat about plans for U.S. strikes in Yemen after he mistakenly saved his number months before under the contact of someone else he had intended to add, according to three people briefed on the matter. The mistake was one of several missteps that came to light in the White House's internal investigation, which showed a series of compounding slips that started during the 2024 campaign and went unnoticed until Waltz created the group chat last month. Trump briefly considered firing Waltz over the episode. No, he didn't. More angered by the fact that Waltz had the number of Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor of The Atlantic, a magazine he despises, than the fact that the military operation discussed took place on an unclassified system such as Signal, where these conversations were already taking place under the left. But Trump decided against firing him in large part because he did not want The Atlantic and the news media more broadly to have the satisfaction of forcing the ouster of a top cabinet official weeks into his second term. Trump also was also mollified by findings of the internal investigation. So basically what happened was Goldberg's number was a part of an exchange that had taken place regarding something totally different. And when he went to save the numbers, he thought the number was for someone else, who is someone who would have normally been in that conversation, but unfortunately it was Goldberg's number. And this was all done well before the campaign, well before all this happened. I mean, well before he was security advisor. And sadly, that was one of the problems. And I'm sure they are putting things in place to make sure that doesn't happen again. But like I said before, if you read it, it read like a TikTok of what happened. There's like an immediate after action report, which I don't understand why any of that would be classified.
Well, I'll tell you right now, none of that is classified. None of that information was classified. But the left wants to continue to push it as classified. None of that was barely even sensitive information. It was, like you said, discussing the aftermath. There was no target information. There was no times. There was no, even names. Nothing like that. There was no classified information in there at all. And if you read it and say there is classified information, you're a hypocrite. It's not classified.
I agree. You are. But the whole point of it is though for them is it's the only thing that they have had to try and hang around Donald Trump to really criticize Donald Trump about. Now they've got the stock market, which it eventually is going to eventually go away as an issue as the things start to normalize. Once the reality of what is going place and the markets know they're comfortable with the playing ground or the field, the rules of the game, shall we say, you'll start to see that normalize and you'll see all of those numbers come back. Then what are they going to have to complain about? I'm sure they'll probably try to find something.
Oh, absolutely, they will. They just, no matter what little thing comes up, Craig, they're going to try and latch onto it and say what it is, and they blame him for something, but nothing.
And by the way, just so y'all know, in this quote unquote trade war, there are at least two dozen different countries that have already come up and said, "Hey, let's negotiate, let's work it out, and let's make this go away." And there's only been one country that has come back with retaliatory tariffs, and that's China, our main target and enemy in this whole process. So I think so far we're doing all right.
Yeah. Now listen, and the Dow today, Craig, down 349 points, which is might as well be zero. I mean, that's level, less than 1%. S&P down 0.2%, but the Nasdaq actually rose 0.1%. So the dump is over. Like I told you, middle of the week, end of the week, this will be made up more than half.
Right. Well, and as I was telling people also, the stocks were overvalued. It was time. We were due for a correction. We got one. All people needed was an excuse for a correction to sell, and they sold. Yep. And now that it's down, people are going to start buying again.
Yep. Making money,
baby. Making money. All right. That now brings us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces. Get your Hog Holster today. All right, our parting shots today are going to be brought to you by the Babylon Bee, fake news that you can trust. Our first one here, China retaliates against tariffs by putting worse fortunes into cookies.
Listen, I don't know if you've read a fortune cookie lately. They're pretty lame. They gave up like 10 years ago. You can't get, there's no fortunes in fortune cookies anymore. It's just like sentences. Here's a sentence is what we give you now.
Right. It's not even entertaining anymore. It used to be entertaining to get a fortune cookie. It's not even. They've totally blown the. They've totally blown it. Anyway,
the best ones I got. So there was a Chinese restaurant I used to go to, Craig, and they would slip them in. They would have handwritten notes in them that said stuff like "Help! I'm trapped in a fortune cookie factory."
Okay, that's funny. That's funny right there. I don't care who you are, unless you're trapped in a fortune cookie factory.
That's it.
All right, the next one here. Protesters demand government waste. Now, I thought, okay, Mike ruined this one because he exactly said that.
Yeah. This is where their checks come from, baby. Listen, when 95% of all that stuff coming out of USAID and US International, whatever the hell it was, where do you think all them unlimited checks are coming from, Craig?
Oh, it's going to those NGOs that are promoting the LGBTQ AI plus minus divided by sign stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
By the way, speaking of that, Donald Trump is decided to show some support for the LGBTQ community. It says here, Trump shows support for LGBTQ community by hosting Dodgers at the White House.
I love it. Trump 47. I love it.
Yeah, I knew you would appreciate that one.
Yep. Here you go.
All right, folks. Well, that brings us to the end of the program. But before we go, we're going to give one more quick shout out to our sponsors.
Yep. Hitman Industries, hitmanindustries.net. Now you can get yourself AR barrels custom made for you if you want them. You can get them regular, standing off the shelf, rifle caliber, pistol caliber, any length you desire. They will take care of you at hitmanindustries.net. California Republican Assembly, fighting the good fight behind enemy lines. Now you can take part in California's future today. And if you want the best in field gear, tactical gear, law enforcement, security, fire, whatever it may be, get your group together, get your agency together, make an order over at uscombatgear.com, where you get everything except the gun.
All right, folks. Well, that's going to be it for today's program. We very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program, encouraging your friends to do the same. We will be back tomorrow on Taco Tuesday. Till then, y'all have fun, stay safe, and if you get a chance, send a few downrange. We will holla at you later.